Welcome back once again. We are going to look at we shall look at barium today. This is the third element that we are looking at in group 2 of the periodic table, where we have already looked at calcium, we have looked at magnesium. So the third one we are looking at is barium and its compound. So barium occurs in nature chiefly in the form of sulfates and carbonates. That is how we can find barium in the earth. So properties, we see that it readily oxidizes in air, vigorously reacts with water. It is a pale yellow solid, has a melting point of 700 degrees centigrade, has a boiling point of 1500 degrees centigrade. So those are properties of barium. So since it exists as sulfates and carbonates, we are going to look at a compound of barium, that is barium sulfate. So the natural sources of barium is mineral called barytes, and baryte has barium sulfate and barium carbonate, which is pure. However, we need to know the properties of barium sulfate. Barium sulfate is a white crystalline solid, has no taste, has no odor, is insoluble in water, has a melting point of 1580 degrees centigrade, has a boiling point of 1600 degrees centigrade. Those are properties of barium sulfate. So there is need for us to know how can we prepare barium sulfate. So here we are going to get baryte, which has a mixture of barium sulfate and barium carbonate. So it is produced by carbothermal reduction to give barium sulfide and carbon monoxide. So we see that barium sulfate plus our carbon, this is carbothermal, meaning there is need to have heat reduction type of reaction to give us barium sulfide and carbon monoxide. However, we need to note that in contrast to barium sulfide is soluble in water and readily converted to oxide, carbonate, and halide. Hence, to produce high pure barium sulfate, the sulfide is treated with sulfuric acid to form sulfate salts. So here we have treated it with sulfuric acid. We have this sulfide that we formed, we are reacting it with sulfuric acid, and then we get barium sulfate and a hydrogen sulfide gas. However, we have also a laboratory method of preparing barium sulfate. Barium sulfate is generated by combining solutions of barium ions and sulfate salts for us to get it. That is on laboratory method. So we have uses of barium. We see that barium sulfate is a suspension used in a radio contrast agent and then used for coating the inside of esophagus, the stomach and intestine, which allows them to be seen more clearly under ATC scan or other X-rays. So we see that when always we need to take a CT scan or CT scan and X-ray, we give our patient what we call a barium meal. A barium meal is when we give this barium sulfate to a patient so that in case of this imaging activity, we are able to view. That is, if we need to observe anything that a patient is complaining about and it deals with the GIT, okay, the gastrointestinal tract. In case when it deals with anything concerning the GIT. So this is all about barium. It is not so much like the calcium and magnesium. Here we see that there are no physiological properties or actions of barium But it is also good to know to explore more and find out more about what barium is. However, what we have learned about barium, we have looked at the sources of barium, how barium exists in nature, and then what are the compounds of barium that we have, where we said we have basically two compounds, barium sulfate and barium carbonate. However, in the field of medicine, our main aim is barium sulfate. However, barium carbonate may be used for other activities or other functions. But when we look at barium sulfate, we need to know how it can be prepared, because it is more vital when we need to do scan or x-ray. We need to know how is this prepared, so that we are able to know in this different type of preparation, are there any impurities that will affect our patient, and if they are there, how can they be managed, and if they are there, are they safe for consumption, and if which method can we use to give us our product with minimal impurities. Thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the best, and stay tuned to this channel, or subscribe and like. This marks the end of group 2, elements of the periodic table and their derived drugs. Thank you so much.